And again, I just think that there's this element where we all are supposed to support each other blindly, and we're all just supposed to be friends and everything's perfect, and like we have to look through rose-colored glasses. The whole fucking community does, at each other, at everything. Everything's valid, everything's okay, everything's perfect. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are spilling the tea, I guess. So I recently saw through a tag by Leanne Smith, I believe is her name. I got a notification that Wine and Witchcraft Live was tagged in a video, and I went to the video and saw occult tea. Obviously, my interest was immediately piqued, and I found this tag so insightful and so spot on to the way that I've been feeling personally, things we've talked about on Wine and Witchcraft Live, and just in general, conversations that have been happening on a smaller scale throughout the community. And to see people influential like the Polish Witch and Elle Harrison talk about FOMO and all the things that go into this tag, I found extremely refreshing. So I figured, obviously, I have to take part in this. So there are 4 parts to this tag. This is probably going to be a long video, and I'm going to try to be as open and honest as I can, because I feel like in the past probably year or so, there has been this aspect of myself that I've tried to stifle down, just because I do feel like in this space we have to be careful about the things we say or how we say them. And I feel like I haven't been able to really be as authentic as I want to be, because I'm scared on how people will perceive that, which obviously feeds into a lot of what this tag is about. But I don't feel like this space is necessarily a safe space to have completely open and honest conversations, because a lot of times you get labeled a bitch or X, Y, or Z instead of trying to be constructive. So we'll see how this goes. So this is broken up into 4 parts. I am looking at this on my phone because this is pretty extensive, which I'm here for. There are a couple of different topics. The first topic is impact on the community. The second one is influencer authenticity. The third is imposter syndrome and FOMO. And topic 4 is capitalizing off the community. So we're going to kind of go through this. This is on Instagram. I'm going to tag everything down below and all the contributors. It is Elle Harrison, the Red-Headed Witch, and the Polish Folk Witch. Amazing content creators. This is absolutely insane, and I am a little nervous. So I do have some diet green tea in here, and we're going to go through this and see what kind of trouble I can get into. So let's get started. So the first one, as I said, is impact on the community. And there are questions in each little section. So what is my personal reasoning, inspiration behind sharing my practice online? I would say initially I really started coming to YouTube probably 15 or 20 years ago with The Lucky Witch. And that was just because I didn't think that anybody had the same thoughts that I did. I didn't know anybody in my personal life that practiced witchcraft. I grew up in a very Christian environment, and I didn't know anything about any of this. And searching on YouTube, I found people like Tiptoe Chick and Charming Pixie Flora, and I was immediately enthralled, even though I didn't necessarily think the same things. It was nice to see people practicing a spirituality and doing things differently than what I had been exposed to my entire life. So coming to YouTube really was about connecting to people, and being able to be creative at the same time was very insightful. But back then, 2006, 7, 2008, it was like the Wild West. It was a very different time on the internet. But that was my initial reasoning for coming to YouTube. And then when I came back on Instagram in 2020, 2019, 2020, I can't remember. And that I found to be the most positive experience I've had sharing my practice or my spirituality online was when I was exclusively doing it on Instagram, just because I felt like the community there, the space was just different. And I feel like I had more control over how people saw me or what I put out. It was easier to be visual and type up an article like post rather than make a video. But we can get into that later. What am I looking to achieve by participating? Do I seek to educate, learn, or connect? I kind of already answered that. I do have a very strong viewpoint that I'm not an educator. I can only share my own experience as a practitioner of what I've actually practiced, what I experienced during that practice, what the results of that were, and sharing that with people. I do feel like there's an expectation that if you are a content creator, you are an educator, and I do think that there are a lot of people who take up space in the community who pass themselves off as educators or leaders or voices for the community that really, in my opinion, shouldn't be. I also think that there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes between creators that a lot of the viewers are not aware of. That, again, is something for the influencer authenticity portion of this video, but I do think that there is room and a space in the community for people to just want to connect, just want to share, or just want to entertain while still being authentic without the need to educate. But I do think that all of these things flow together in a way that make content creators feel like they have to educate and they have to provide a service in a way to the viewer that I think does drive I think it's a big reason why there's a lot of fakery going on with people and allows more opportunity for grifters to take advantage of people in the community. How do I believe social media as a whole has impacted the community? I feel like I have a very hard viewpoint on overall community, witchcraft, occult community. I don't know that there really is one. I feel like with the internet and social media taking such a big role in how people practice or the lack of practice that people participate in has divided people up a lot. If you look back maybe 10 years ago, I think that there was a collective community online, but I feel as though as we progress and social media takes a bigger grasp on how we view spirituality, people are more individualized, where it's like, okay, this creator has their community, you have your community, but an overall community, that's very hard for me to see right now. I feel like people are very stuck in their ways and they see things a certain way. I don't know. I think I don't feel a sense of community. I will say that. I don't feel a sense of community. I have felt a sense of camaraderie with other creators. I feel like the people who watch my content and engage with my content are my community. But outside of that, I don't necessarily feel that way. With the amount of grifters and bullshit that goes on, I'm very weary of people, and I know other people feel the same way. In it's sad when we kind of question people's motives when we have experiences or hear things. I think a lot of positive has come from social media as well. I mean, you get to meet people and connect with people and build friendships with people you never would have met before. My longest friendship with Brittany, we met on YouTube 15 years ago. She lived in Massachusetts. There was no way we were ever going to meet. Owlvine lives in Australia. To have built the beautiful friendship that I've built with her, that never would have been possible without social media. And the knowledge that we can learn, the experience that we can learn through those connections is beautiful. I think it's irreplaceable. I don't think that social media is the problem. It's people that are the problem, and a lack of self-control and being constantly scrolling and spending our lives looking at a screen and feeling this need to constantly be online or compete with other people or try to find a different version of ourselves is where the problem lies. It's a balancing act. And I feel like the eyes are on the witchcraft community, and the practice of witchcraft is very trendy right now. So there's a lot of growing pains going on collectively, and I think that's what people are feeling, because I think everybody really is feeling it. How do I think social media such as TikTok, Instagram, YouTube have impacted education, sharing information? Generally, I think social media has made people believe that if they watch a video, they're an expert and they know everything that there is to know, and they're entitled to use it however they see fit. That's pretty much how I feel about that. I believe it was Ella who said TikTok has killed people's attention spans, and I agree. We talked about that on Wine and Witchcraft Live. People want the instant gratification. That's what they want. I also think that's why a lot of people aren't practicing witchcraft and they're just saying they're practicing witchcraft, is because witchcraft is not instant gratification. Nothing religiously or spiritually is instantly gratifying. It takes time, it takes work and understanding, and that is not a value that our society holds dear at this point in time. We want instant gratification, and engagement with content is something that you can see very clearly. I will say, for me personally, I am very lucky for the people who watch my content, who continue to engage with it. But that's not something that is collectively happening across the board. People want to know everything. They want the shorthand version of whatever it is so that they can apply that, be entertained by that, and move on to the next thing. I still do think that YouTube is the best social media platform. But I'm just going to say this too. I just feel like everybody's trying to get noticed, myself included. Like, nobody on social media is just posting just to post. There is just an element of everything that makes me feel, and I'm probably jaded in this, and I get it, and maybe I'm the minority. I just feel like everybody's out for something, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I just don't feel, I just don't look at it through rose-colored lenses anymore. I don't know. Everything, the capitalism and the drive to reach fame that so many people have, and partnerships and all of this stuff, none of it is innately bad. It just, that spark and that beautiful thing, I haven't felt that for a long time. Is consuming witchcraft content becoming a substitute for practice? Absolutely. And there have been a number of creators, and even myself at one time, considered making content for YouTube is a part of my practice. I think that's bullshit. I don't think that that's practicing witchcraft. And I have been very open and honest from the beginning. I have fallen into that category before of I'm creating spell work specifically for the need to post content. And I don't think that that's innately a bad thing if you're teaching people your way of doing something. I don't necessarily think that's inherently evil or disingenuous. I do think it becomes a problem when that's the only thing you're doing. That's a lie. And I think that that is a lot more common than what people think. I also think that the viewers, subscribers, whatever, you want to call them, the people who watch our videos are in many ways unaware. They're subconsciously aware, but not acutely aware of the fact that majority of what they are consuming is not real in the sense of it being staged. It's not something that's actually happening. It's not something that's actually being worked. It's an example for them to see. And even as content creators, I think there are times where we forget that ourselves, and we do get that sense of FOMO of why our practice doesn't look like this. And that's because it's not real. It's not the real, true meat and potatoes of what is going on behind the scenes. That leads us to topic 2. Influencer authenticity. Out of what I share on social media, how much of it is staged versus reality? I will say for me, and I think I forgot to mention this in the beginning of this video, my name's Justin. I'm the Witch of Enchantment. I'm a basic witch bitch. That is my brand. Okay, that is what I do because that's what I feel comfortable with. And I also have this desire to come in and I want to fly under the radar. I don't want expectations to be high because it's easy to meet that level. And if I exceed that, great. Like, I'm not looking to change the world with how I practice magic. I like the simplicity of it because I just want to do what works and what feels right to me. I like folk, granny magic, easy, straight to the point, powerful shit. That's what I like, and that's what I do here. As far as what I share on social media, what is staged, what is real, I'm going to be honest, majority of what I have shared in the past has been real. It has been. As far as the Witch of Enchantment is concerned, when I posted years and years and years ago, it was mainly all staged. The fact that I don't post anything about my own personal practice or spell work anymore is because I don't share anything anymore as far as specific witchery because I don't feel comfortable with it. And also because I'm acutely aware that if I get into doing that, I have a tendency to want to start to stage things. And that can lead me down a path of staging something rather than practicing something. And is it worth it? It's not. Regardless of how many subscribers I have or how much money I make or whatever the case may be, if I can't be truthful, then what is the point? And I just want to be me. I don't want to just be, the witch. I want to be the witch. I want to be the bitch. I want to be the funny one. I just want to show versions of myself that are real and things about who I am as a person. And I'm acutely aware of the fact that if I start staging things, that could be bad for me. It's almost like an addiction. I mean, it's not an addiction, but it's just not a healthy thing for me to do. So I don't do that because I know how it could lead to bad habits and how that can affect my actual practice. So I just don't even bother. If you see a candle spell or any sort of spell work, it's real. It's a portion of it is real because I don't stage shit anymore. I just can't. Do I think there's an element of censorship in online spaces? How do I decipher what is appropriate to share online versus what I keep private? Is this based on social media etiquette or a personal preference? Do I think there's an element of censorship in online spaces? I think that censorship in online spaces, I think there is a lot of censorship in online spaces because there is this false narrative that this is a safe space, and it's not a safe space. There is an element where we attack each other and try to tell each other how to practice. I also think that there's an element where we're supposed to just say everything's valid. And I don't necessarily think that that's true either. I think a lot of people in the community, a lot of creators, we try not to be like other spiritual spaces, other religious spaces. We want to be inclusive, as we should be, but at the expense of being authentic, I don't think is really helpful. There is a number of people in this community that I have encountered and factually know are complete and utter fucking liars and have no intention other than to get numbers and get money. But nobody says anything. Why is that? I don't know. But I think that there is a level of censorship in the community. I also feel like when it comes to sharing spell work, I think that there is a element of personal preference. I don't think that there is a social media etiquette on what you should share about your own personal practice. And, you know, if you're a part of a closed tradition and you're sharing stuff online, that's between you and who you answer to and who you work with and your coven and, you know, whatever situation you got going on. I don't think that it is up to the viewer. I don't think it's necessarily always up to content creators to be held accountable and held responsible. It is 2020. It is 2024. As a viewer, there is some accountability that has to be taken, but as far as what I share on social media, I think it's up to the practitioner and what they feel comfortable in sharing and what they don't feel comfortable sharing online. But I do think that there is an element of censorship, and that's what I talked about when I started this video. I do feel like there are aspects and things that go on that I have seen within the community that I cannot speak about or that I'm scared to speak about because of what could happen. And it's an element that has added not a disdain, but a distaste for this space in general. Because when you get to know people, you don't know who knows who, you know, across social media platforms, and people give you icks, things give you icks, and you realize that not everything is as it seems. That's kind of a tangent and a rant, but I'm just trying to be open and honest, and I'm just speaking freely. This is not, you know, this isn't scripted, nothing. We're just going off the cuff here. So, yeah, I maybe at some point I can speak freely on those things. Oh, wow, okay. I haven't even pre-read all these prompts here, but have I ever encountered or heard of grifters in our community? Do I recognize them? What are significant signs of grifters in the community? Yes, I have. And I think they're more common than not. I think there's a lot of people who practice for the sake of practicing so that they can make a name for themselves. When we talk about grifters, I don't think just about money. I think about attention. There's a lot of people who want fucking attention. And one of the sure signs that I see is anybody who constantly has to fan a fire for the sake of fanning a fire, that's a red flag. When they have nothing actually productive to say, this is another thing that people really need to pay attention to. Don't just hear people speak. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to their actions. Not listen to their actions. Listen to what they're saying. Watch what they do. Look at the company that they keep. That's always been a very sure sign to me of the intentions that people have in this space that they occupy. When they're always surrounded by different people, when they're always having some sort of hot take or there's some sort of controversy consistently, constantly, that should be a red flag that something may not be right. Something's rotten, honey. And it's probably that person. You know, when somebody's constantly trying to make money, get you to subscribe to something, somebody's always selling something. That's another thing. And I've been told by other content creators, like, you've been in the game for a while, like, yeah, your audience isn't huge, but like you should already be doing all these other things. You should have a Patreon, which I did, but I closed it down. You should have a Patreon. You should have, you know, be doing tarot readings. You should be self-publishing a book. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. Why? Why? That's what I don't understand. Like, why? Why do we have to constantly do all those things? I don't understand it. Why we have to make money off people consistently and constantly. Like, not everything you have to say needs to be said, but not everything is that special. I know that's fucked up to say, but like, not everybody needs to have written a book. They don't. Not everybody needs a witchcraft course. Not every, like, it's not necessary. Like, there are times where I get on YouTube and I look around and I'm like, I feel like I'm at the goddamn flea market. Like, everyone has their own little thing. Everyone's trying to sell me something. I'm just kind of like, I'm over it. I'm kind of just annoyed by the whole fucking thing, to be honest with you. What tools are helpful to decipher misinformation, and how can the community prevent widespread misinformation? Accountability. People, when you watch videos, you have to source what you're listening to and what you're taking in. You cannot look at somebody who has 500,000 subscribers and just expect that everything that they say is going to absolutely 100% be true. On top of the fact that majority of what we discuss in the witchcraft space specifically is a personal experience. It's your own personal gnosis. It's unverifiable, okay? It's a fucking opinion. A lot of what we talk about is an opinion. There are facts within that realm. Overall, though, it is an opinion. It's a personal experience, and I can decide that what you're doing is not valid. I could say it's not valid. I don't believe you. You're full of shit. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I've had content creators call me out, and sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong. We have to also be able to have those productive conversations in a space that does feel safe. That's not happening. Again, there is an element where we cannot have conversations. We can't, quote unquote, call people out because that's not what we do here. No, instead we just sweep stuff under the rug, keep it moving, and pretend like stuff isn't happening. But as a viewer, you have to listen to what people are saying and source that information. Where are they getting that information from? How are they coming up with this? Not only that, but if you have some knowledge or some experience, you can attempt to put it into practice. See how you feel about it. The real truth of the matter is, again, it's not always on the content creator to take up the full accountability for what's happening in our community. Majority, the biggest populace of this community are people who consume the content rather than who are making it. And with the witchcraft community being so trendy right now, the practice of witchcraft, spirituality, new age, everything, all of it. I'm just clumping it all together, which some people aren't going to like, but if for the sake of this, I'm just going to clump it all together. With all of that on the rise, people are going to come in to make money. And the people who are already here are going to see an opportunity to make money. And some people are going to seize on that. And everybody can be bought. I don't care what anybody tells you. Everybody can be bought. I can be bought. Every YouTuber you've ever seen can be bought for a price. That is the fucking truth. We're all human here, but ain't no one trying to buy me because I ain't worth shit. But I'm just saying, take some accountability for the information you're taking in and source it and find out where that information's coming from. I think is the biggest and best thing that you can do. How does a large following impact the perception of the creator? Does this immediately make them an expert, or are there other assumptions as to why they have a large following? I think for me, I think that people look at numbers as validity. And I have known that in my very small scale of success on this channel. People are more apt now to believe what I say because I have over 3,000 subscribers opposed to when I had 100. What the difference is? Absolutely nothing. But numbers equal validity. It is cattle mentality. That's what it is. That may be a shitty way to put it, but it's the truth. If the leader's heading this way, if majority of the cattle's this way, the scragglers will follow. Because that's where the herd is going. That's where the crowd is going. And I do think that there's a perception that if you have a lot of subscribers, less questions are asked about where you're getting the information and what exactly you're saying. 100%. I don't think there's any doubt of that. And the algorithm feeds into that perception. Maybe has built that perception. When you look at YouTube and you Google witchcraft, type in witchcraft, you're not getting someone who has 3,000 subscribers. YouTube is not going to suggest that person. They're not going to suggest me or someone who has 100 subscribers. They're not. And no disrespect to these ladies, but they're going to they're going to push the Witch of Wonderlust, Hearth Witch, sometimes Tiptoe Chick still. They're going to push people who have the numbers. And again, there's nothing wrong with those ladies. They're absolutely fabulous. I love them. But there is going to be a perception that everything they say has more validity because the numbers are there, and YouTube is going to push that. The same thing like TikTok. The whole For You page, they're going to push the people who already have massive followings. That's the way that it works, because that's how the platform makes money. That's how the creator makes money. Everybody's making money, more money. So absolutely, there's always going to be a perception that someone who has a bigger following has more validity and what they're saying is truthful over someone who has 100 subscribers. Absolutely. It's just a bias that we have. It just is. Because if everyone else sees truth in it, then there must be truth in it. Right? Look at the Bible. How does one maintain the balance of authenticity and content creation? I don't know. I started making vlogs to bring more authenticity and just a feeling of being open and honest, because my mental health was suffering and I needed to share that with somebody. And I am very thankful for the people who are on this channel and have consistently and constantly given me space where I, for the most part, feel safe to do that. In this little space, I do feel comfortable doing that. I don't know, though. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the balance of authenticity and content creation is. I do know that probably doesn't fit the algorithm to get the numbers and get the engagement and get the likes and the comments and building up a following that is deemed successful. I don't think that there is a healthy balance that goes hand in hand with those types of successes. I mean, I have a family, I have 2 jobs, I have all this stuff going on. I mean, if I wanted to get the numbers that would be deemed successful, I guess I would need to be doing this every moment that I'm not doing other things, I guess. I don't know what that is. For me, it's just reducing my own engagement in this space as far as content creation is concerned. And I've also been consuming a whole lot less content. I don't really watch videos anymore. I don't watch people's stuff anymore. I will read, I practice, I live I live my life over just staying on YouTube all day, or TikTok, or Instagram. Just staying away from it is the best balance I have found, is just reducing it completely. Okay, topic 3, imposter syndrome and FOMO. I don't know if anything I said makes any fucking sense, because I typically do try to have an idea of what I'm going to talk about. And this time I'm not doing that. I'm just going off the cuff. So who knows how ridiculous this is going to be. When I follow other creators in the community space, does it make me feel genuinely inspired, empowered, or does it give me feelings of FOMO and being less than? I typically, to be truthful, feel typically FOMO. I feel less than. Now, I am acutely aware, again, of where that comes from. I grew up with no siblings, but very close to my 2 cousins, and their mom always had financial issues. So my parents, my grandparents, and my other aunt always took a huge interest in the 2 of them and making sure they had everything they need, and, you know, going the extra mile because she was a single mom. And it always made me feel left out. I would go to my grandparents' house. They'd be like one picture of me. All the other pictures on the walls were all of them. So I always felt a sense of not being seen and invisible. And it's something that's consistently been an issue for me, of feeling less than, of not having a lot of self-confidence. And I would say most of the time, following other content creators makes me feel inadequate. I completely feel inadequate as a content creator. I do think, though, that feeling has given some positive effects in how I approach it. I do feel like I've kind of just given up on trying to be them. I don't have the financial backing. I don't, maybe I'm just not talented enough. That's okay too. And so I have, in a way, released a lot of those expectations, and I just stopped following them. And it has nothing to do with them. It's a me issue. But there's definitely become an expectation of what it means to be a witchcraft or occult creator, what the aesthetic is, what the epitome of success is. And I don't have any of those things, and I probably never will have any of those things. So I've just come to the conclusion that the best thing that I can do is to be me. Whether I become successful at this or not, the most important thing is that I'm successful in my practice and that I'm happy as a person. Now, I'm not, but I will be. And that's what I look forward to. I also feel like there's this element of accepting that sometimes your dreams or your expectations just don't come true. Like, you can't have everything you want, and some stuff just isn't meant for you. And maybe that's just not meant for me. In reality, yeah, I would love to be a full-time content creator and live a completely witchy life and just, you know, spend my life up in the witchy room and walk the forest every day. Do I think that most content creators do that? No. Do I think a lot of them give the impression that that is their life? Yes, I do. A little reality versus fucked upness, but yeah, that's what it is. If I experience FOMO, has it ever left me feeling otherwise? Wait, what? If I experience FOMO, has it ever left me feeling vulnerable to be taken advantage of financially or otherwise? An example would be the need to purchase the latest product or book to fit in. Absolutely. There was actually a time where I considered just stopping making YouTube videos completely because I didn't have the money to continually buy these books. All these content creators are getting stuff sent to them from Llewellyn and all these other companies. They're doing book reviews, card reviews. This company sent me this oil. How do you compete with that? I don't have 30,000 subscribers, 50, 100, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I don't have companies knocking down my door to send me shit for free to do whatever. I don't have the money to spend, you know, a couple $100s a month on books and all this fucking shit. I just don't, I don't have the resources to do that. So where do I fall in this space? How do I connect to people? How do I entertain? How do I stay a relevant content creator when I can't keep up with everybody else? And that's when I realized that I'm a crazy bitch and I can be funny and there's something that people resonate with and I'm just going to do that instead. That has led us here. When practicing my craft, do I find myself comparing what I do to what I've been seeing other people do online? No, not anymore. I've moved completely past that. When I'm practicing, I actually don't think about anything I've seen online. Obviously, I'm sure there's some subconscious elements that go into whatever I do because we're only human and we consume things and it stays around in our brain. But I don't consciously think, okay, well, I saw a video about this, so I'm comparing it. I don't have any of those thoughts. That may also be in part because I'm not consuming content like I used to. Like I said, I don't really watch YouTube videos anymore. I don't really read a lot of stuff on Instagram. I have a select group of people that I favorite, that I consistently read and watch and speak to. Outside of that, I have tried to just sequester myself to my own space where I can be as productive as I can be and not feel like a piece of shit. In what ways do I combat imposter syndrome? I've just tried not to be like anybody else. I've realized that if I can just bring my truthful experiences and how I really feel about things to the forefront, even if people hate me, even if people don't like me, they can't say I'm not being honest. They can't say I'm not being authentic. And if I do that, then I have nothing to feel inadequate about. And that was the flip side of this feeling less than by consuming too much of other content creators. If I just stop trying to be like everybody else, maybe, just maybe, I can just be me. And if I'm just me, then the imposter syndrome won't be there anymore. And we talked about this on One in Witchcraft Live. I've talked about it on this channel before. I have had imposter syndrome, but it has been a while. And I don't suffer from that anymore. I really don't. But I think it really is because for the first time in a long time, I'm just being me. And Sometimes that's witchy, sometimes that's not. It's just me being me, my authentic self, as authentic as I know how to be. That's just what it is. What would my practice look like without the social media influence of other creators? I don't know what it would look like. It probably would not be as, I probably would not be as confident as I am in it now, because there are people that I have watched that have been of great value to me, like the Witch of Wonderlust, like Owlvine, Esoteric Echoes, Tiptoe Chick, countless people, and not even necessarily what they say or what they do, but book suggestions, anything. Certain ways of doing things that maybe I never would have known before or would have taken me a long time to figure out. So I do think that there is definitely a positive element always to this space. It's just, again, trying to stay balanced and not hinging too much on social media. Okay, we're at a little bit of a different angle because my camera died. So there was that. Okay, so the last topic is topic 4, capitalizing off the community. Do I consider online communities as equally valid as in-person communities? Well, as somebody who doesn't really have an in-person community, I would say yes. An in-person community is definitely something I've always wanted, but having an online community also is such a great resource because I've met so many friends, like true friends, and just people that are peers, that aren't necessarily friends, but are my peers that I can be like, hey, have you ever done something like this? Do you know anything about this? Be a resource for me. Give me some suggestions. So I'm definitely impartial to online communities because that's mainly what I have and what I've experienced. How have online witchcraft communities impacted me as a person and a practitioner? The growth personally and spiritually that have happened because of this online adventure, I don't know how I could compare. I don't know. It's been immeasurable, really, because the people that I hold closest to me in my life, a lot of them I've met online, and that has went outside of a content creation space, outside of a spiritual space even, and become friendships. And it's just everyday mundane conversation, and it's just really been a true, deep, long lasting blessing to have met these people, to where it's not just a spiritual thing, it's a soul thing. That sounds so funny to say that, but do you know what I mean when you meet people and they infiltrate your life in such a positive way? It's the same thing with the online community versus in person. I don't know, you can meet some people that you just automatically click with and you just know they're in your life forever or for a really long fucking time. So yeah, there's been a huge impact on my life and how they have helped me through personal mental health crises, through spiritual things, ideas for how to help grow and better my practice. I mean, it's immeasurable. What are some of the dangers of the current phenomenon on capitalizing off the witchcraft community? Dangers, I mean, here's the thing. People with the most views, with the most money are going to make the most money and get the most out of the capitalization of the community. But I do feel like, as I said earlier, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing as far as what people's intentions are, you never really truly know what is driving somebody. But it is so saturated. Like, it is so fucking saturated with people asking for fucking money on every fucking thing. And I don't know how really truly I feel about it, because I think that there are valid reasons to charge for services. I think that it's okay to have an energetic exchange. It's just it's just a lot. It's a lot. It's overwhelming, and it leaves a thing in my, like, I kind of like, okay, you sell too much. Like, I can't. I can't follow. I can't engage. It's just, it's off-putting to me. And that probably is a me problem. I just, you know, when we become more focused on the dollar rather than the connection, I think that that's will be a big detriment to the community as a whole, the community. But I don't know how really to resolve that. You know, people need to make money. And so you have people who genuinely are practicing, who genuinely do have good intentions, who are capitalizing off the community. And then you have other people who just literally see it as an opportunity to capitalize and make money, who don't believe, agree, understand with anything that anybody does in the community. They're just there to make money. We just have to really be aware of who we're giving our money to, how much that money is, and why we're engaging with this kind of content. Have I personally been affected by this, or have I witnessed other people been affected? I personally haven't. I will be the first one to tell you, I don't subscribe to anybody's anything. I just don't. It's never been something that I've done. There are 2 people that I've considered doing it for, which I still may do that. And it's because I genuinely like them as people. I would consider them on the verge of being friends. Outside of that, absolutely not. I'm just not someone who pays for channel memberships or Patreons or any of that. I will buy merch. I'll buy a book. I just don't. I don't really know a lot of people who do that either. That's just not a way that I choose to engage with people that I like to watch or people that I respect. I don't typically engage monetarily. I engage in other ways. Should there be paywalled communities and online courses? And this kind of goes with the second one too, like how does one ensure authenticity through all these courses and financial investments? Here's the thing, there's no way to really quantify what it's worth, right? Like, I could charge a course on shadow work, trauma witch here, you know, do the whole thing and clickbaity and get people to go in and charge $5,000 for a 3-day course. Is it worth it? I mean, let's be real, probably not. I do think that there's an element of laziness that comes with a lot of these fucking things. With the courses, all of this shit, I think it's a big thing is a proponent of laziness, and the fact that people don't want to do their own research, they don't want to read, they don't want to invest their time, they would much rather pay somebody to put everything together and then kind of spoon feed it to them, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Look, I don't like cutting my lawn. I'll pay somebody to do it. I get it. That's fine. But you also have to understand whether it's worth what you're paying for. And if you don't have any knowledge and you're not willing to do your own due diligence, how are you going to know if you're being robbed or not? You're not. I mean, there is no continuity or kind of baseline on what to charge people. You can see tarot card readings for $35 up to $235. The same thing with spell work. It's all what the person wants to charge. And a lot of this stuff, I'm not going to name any names, although I'm very tempted to, you can do it yourself. Like, they're really not. And, you know, the whole spiel is going to be, oh, well, they're guides, guardians, ancestors. I don't care about any of that. That's an unquantifiable element that people try to sell, and it's bullshit. To me, it's bullshit. You are your best connection to magic. That's my opinion. Not a fact, an opinion. That's just as people using something as a selling point to get you to pay for something you could probably do on your own. I do also think that there's an element of mystery that comes with selling services. There's a lot of companies that sell services to people who don't practice magic, and they also have real no understanding of what it is. Do I feel like there should be paywalls? I mean, if you want to do a paywall and people will pay it, then do it. I don't necessarily think there's anything innately sinister about that. Again, when it comes to money, the viewer, the subscriber, whoever, you are the one with the money. Be smart with your money. Don't spend your money on something you don't think is worth it. And, you know, when it comes to spiritual services, there is no way to quantify a worth. The only person who can do that is you. You paid X amount of dollars. This is the experience you got. Did you think it was worth it? And, you know, be smart too and try to know what you're going to get for the most part and how much the person's asking, and really weigh out whether it's worth it or not. Don't be enchanted by how many subscribers somebody has or who they have a book deal with or whatever the case may be. It's your money until you choose to spend it. So spend it wisely. I mean, I've done the paywall thing and it is nice. I'm not going to be wrong. Like, again, we all need money. Like, nobody lives for free. But everyone has a different moral compass. Everyone has a different code of ethics. So be aware of that when you're spending your hard-earned money in this economy on something, again, you could probably do yourself. That's all I'm saying. So, conclusions. What are our conclusions? What are some topics of conversation I'd like to see more of in our community? Conversations like this one. I do have to say, the conversations in the community in general, I have actually been impressed by. A lot of people, well, that's kind of not true. I've been impressed with how open people are getting to different things, mental health. But I do think that there are more conversations that could be had about efficacy and content creators maybe being more vocal and trying to take more of an active role on how to be vocal about people they know are sinister. I'm trying to find a very specific way to say that, and that's just how I'm going to say it. What are my community needs? What are my community needs? I think for me, I want a space. You know what I would love? This is what I would love. I would love a directory. That's what I would like. A community directory. And a system where I could just look up and it is not dictated by subscribers or by viewership. It's topically based so that I could find what I'm looking for without a lot of pomp and circumstance, without, you know, a whole grandioso fucking video, just straight to the point stuff that I want or that I need, and not have the same content creator sold to me consistently over and over and over and over again. I get creator fatigue. Like, okay, I've seen this person. I get it. Okay, I got it. I want something else. I want to change the channel. Who else do you got out here? That's what I would like. Where would I like to feel more held and supported? Where do I feel like I'm not truly being seen in my community? More held and supported. Where would I like to feel more held and supported? I feel pretty held and supported in my little neck of the woods over here by my Glitter Witch covens. As I said in this video, I'm sure multitude of times, I do feel held and supported. I just think that what I do is not for the masses. Maybe, I don't know. I feel pretty supported and held here by the people who subscribe to my channel and who engage with me. So I really can't complain for my community right here. I can't really complain. Where do I feel like I'm not being truly seen by my community? I think people who are on a smaller scale, who aren't trying to teach you, who are not trying to be voices, who are not throwing titles out like high priestess, author, all this shit, to elevate themselves. I think if you're not holding that space, you're not being seen. It takes a little bit more digging. There are people out there. The algorithm isn't going to show them to you, but they are out there. You just have to, again, do your work and push through the people you always see, to find other people who aren't necessarily trying to sell you anything, who are not necessarily trying to educate you, but are just trying to connect and show you what they do or entertain you and have fun. Yeah. How can we help each other in removing the external peer pressure and growth in the community? Well, peer pressure, growth in the community, peer pressure, growth in the community. I don't necessarily feel an innate peer pressure to be a certain way. I think it's something that we interpret we have to do because of the algorithm and because of how people who are on the high end of the hierarchy operate. And those people have to be weary of other people. There are a number of content creators that have big followings that will, collaborate with people who have nobody following them, but a multitude of people won't. So until I think in some ways the people at the top can engage better with people at the quote unquote bottom, I don't know that internal peer pressure or the growth in the community is necessarily gonna happen. If you look at the community 10, 15 years ago, the differentiation between major successful YouTubers, and I'm talking YouTube specifically, majorly successful YouTubers versus just regular, was maybe a couple thousand. You're talking now, the gap has widened massively. If you were looking 15, 16 years ago at YouTube, 3,000 subscribers that was really fucking good. Now, I don't even think you're considered a successful YouTuber in this community until you're maybe at like 10, 15,000. That's like big numbers there. So it's just the hierarchy. And, that's part of who we are as human beings. There's a hierarchy and everything. I don't know if there's really anything that can be done about that. I don't know if that's a solution, but how can we as a community come together with more constructive criticisms without it seeming shady or passive-aggressive? I think that the passive-aggressive and shady aspect is because this isn't a safe space to actually give constructive criticism. I cannot come out and say, hey, there's this other creator that does X, Y, and Z behind the scenes. This is da-da-da-da-da. No, you can't do that. It's not a space to do that. You can't go to the creator because in that creator, there isn't a safe space to do that. And a way to get around that, a lot of people have taken, myself included, where you just make shady, passive-aggressive comments that people who know, people who don't. How we get around that, I don't know. I really don't know. Because there are people in the community who are they're not good people. And that's not an opinion, that's a fact. But how do you address that? How do you go about doing that? I don't know. We have such a mentality in our community where we want to be, again, all-inclusive and supportive as we should be. But there also has to be an element where the people who create content, regardless of their following, should be looking at how we can keep this space safe. I don't have a solution for that. I don't know. I don't want that level of drama myself either. I don't want to come out and publicly criticize somebody or publicly expose somebody, because that's a double-edged sword and you don't really know what side of the blade you're gonna get. I don't know how we give constructive criticism, because people, again, as I said earlier with communities, each creator has their own little community. And if I say something about somebody or that person says something about me, then the two communities are going at each other, and then people get hurt in the crossfire. So I don't know how we approach that. I think it's definitely something that needs to happen. I don't think discourse is necessarily a bad thing. It's why the discourse is happening that is a problem. There are definitely people who stir up drama and cause discourse for their own personal benefit. I think a lot of it has to do with intention. I'm going off on a rant there, but I don't know what the solution is for that. How can we as a community do better when we receive criticism, feedback? I don't know how we can do better. I have gotten criticisms and feedback publicly and privately. I know that I'm not a perfect person. I'm far from it. I try not to take things personally. I'm also somebody who likes to try to stay the middleman and just keep the peace, which I also don't think is healthy. I think that there is a balance that has to happen. You have to be able to converse appropriately. You also have to be able to stand up for yourself. And again, I just think that there's this element where we all are supposed to support each other blindly, and we're all just supposed to be friends and everything's perfect, and like we have to look through rose-colored glasses. The whole fucking community does, at each other, at everything. Everything's valid, everything's okay, everything's perfect. We're going to talk in code about people who take advantage of the community. We're going to talk about grifters, but we're never actually going to address who these people are or what actually is happening. We're just going to throw a blanket statement because we don't want to offend anybody. Like, until we're willing to get uncomfortable, until we're willing to put our viewership at risk, nothing's ever going to change. And that's what it is. Because a lot of content creators know other content creators, even though the public may not know that they know each other. And we all hear things about each other. We just do. Some of us know facts about others that the people who subscribe to them and engage with them should know. But again, it's just people don't want to go down that road. So again, what is the solution? I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know. As far as like how to take criticism, I do agree with what some of the other ladies were saying. We do need to try to, when someone gives you a criticism, take the criticism and see where that person is coming from. That's, I think, a positive thing to do, is look at the criticism and say, okay, you're saying X, Y, and Z. Let me really take that to heart. Let me release my emotions for a moment. Let me just try to look at it, I think, objectively, and just, okay, actually I do see some points into what you're saying. I just think that people a lot of times can be defensive and don't ever want to be wrong. And honestly, sometimes constructive criticism isn't productive. I mean, the person giving the constructive criticism isn't always constructive. But as far as how do we receive that better, I think, again, we have to create a space where we feel like we can have those conversations, and that space has not been created. It has not. We are living in a PC world where we are not supposed to question anything. If the general consensus is this is what we feel like, then anyone who steps outside of that could be ridiculed. And that is the culture. That is most certainly the culture. Who are some community members that I look up to that are relatable resources and aspirations? I have a very close group of people that I think are absolutely lovely. Owlvine, Esoteric Echoes, Dreamtime Tarot, Ivy the Occultist, Taya Kennedy, The Witch of Wonderlust, Marshall, The Witch of Southern Light, A.B. Witch Journal. Those are some of the people that I consistently watch and like what they do. And it's not even the witchery. There's something about them specifically that makes me feel something. Makes me feel seen, makes me feel heard. Their outlook on life is something that I can relate to. And so they inspire me. They make me feel seen in ways that a lot of people don't. So yeah, that's our occult tea. I don't know if any of this made sense. I do feel like there's portions of this where I came off aggressive myself, but I do have additional thoughts and feelings. I know there's a space to do that. I just, again, don't feel like there's a space to do that. But I'm very excited to see who else engages in this and where this continues to go. I'm going to link everybody down below. I know they had talked about, the ladies who created this had talked about doing a live panel if enough people engage in this tag, which I think would be absolutely fantastic. Overall, the best way to get to a better place in our community and have hard conversations is to have the conversation. And I feel like through this tag and seeing things that content creators are saying, as well as viewers are saying, gives me hope that we're headed to a place where the community can change in a good way and flourish and feel like a safe space for us to have hard and honest conversations. That's what I hope for. So, until next time, Glitter Witches, cheers.